the markets, the traps.
And you bought our garlic.
And I brought, oh no, of course, I'm a consumer as well as. But just to start off, Libby, Ken handed me this bag of interesting, pretty things. So would you like to start by just telling us about what these are?
Of course. We figure that we can use most of the garlic plant in various ways, so not just the bulb. We also use the scapes when they come on in October, and green garlic, of course, before that. But this is the flower head, which then hardens up and goes to seed, which you don't plant from on the whole. But it's got the most incredible pungent, sort of punchy flavour.
Yeah.
And we've got a chef now who's kind of just hooked on them, and he pops them on his pizza, which seems to just lift the whole thing.
And they're absolutely delicious. I mean, they're garlicky, but it's just as you think you've perhaps got enough garlic, you have, and it finishes because they're tiny and delicious.
I mean, we might pop them through an omelette or fry or something like that.
These are from the purple garlic?
Actually, they're from both.
They're from both?
Both of our varieties. Oh, look, our varieties are... we have a few more varieties than Gilles and Victoria. The white some of the white will produce some seed as well.
Yep, yep. And how did you get into growing garlic?
Oh, pretty similar, really. We used to, 20 years ago, we had a lot and we gave it away to our friends, and they all thought it was great, and we thought, well, heavens.
Yeah. And now you just focus on growing garlic?
Yes, we pretty much do.
Yeah.
We had fabulous heritage tomatoes last year, and we tried again this year, but the climate, not working this year, no.
And do you want to just talk a little bit about, I suppose there's two things about garlic. Obviously the health benefits that some people may or may not be aware of. But then, well, let's start with that. Let's start with the health benefits of garlic.
Ken, for example, would take a crushed clove of garlic. He can take it raw every morning. And it's important to crush it because you get the best sulfur compounds if you crush it and leave it for about 10 seconds. So he would eat that every morning.
And literally just crush it and
chew it? He's a bloke, you know.
Right, okay.
He can do that. I can't do that.
Garlic chewing gum could be a new thing.
It is antiseptic. It is antibiotic. So it has antibacterial and antifungal properties as well.
Yep.
And there's some evidence to say that it possibly helps in lowering cholesterol.
Okay. And we all know that sort of during, we like to use garlic all year round, and I suppose that's when some of us are going to the supermarket and realising that I know, but we won't do that anymore because we're going to buy our platted garlic here today and take home bags and keep it in storage till next time.
Well, I can also say if you're not lucky enough to get a plat from Gilles and Victoria, I find if you just break up the cloves and either peel them or don't peel them in a Ziploc bag over winter in the freezer.
In the freezer.
Now, the texture ain't the same.
No, and the other thing you can do is also confit them in oil.
You can
and then cook them very, very long and slowly, and then jar them up and keep them in the fridge and take out a clove as you need it.
And are you confident about doing that for the whole of winter?
Probably not the whole of the winter, but if you do it and then you seal it when it's hot and you're sealing it properly, I'd be,
okay, I'm just very interested to know because, as
I don't know that I'd go and sell it, but
no. You're happy to be a guinea pig.
I've done that before.
Because the industry as a whole is getting together and trying to prolong the season so we can produce garlic by growing different varieties in different climates all year round, but we certainly aren't there yet.
And all our three growers today are organic growers of garlic, and I suppose just to touch on not just organic garlic but an Australian grown garlic, but I think it's important just to remember perhaps what is the difference between some of the imported garlics, particularly the Asian garlic, and how it can be treated often.
Well, that's a very good point, Alex. Not the fault of the growers who don't live in Australia, but the requirements by Australian Quarantine Aquis are very stringent, so that the garlic that comes in is irradiated, often if it's come from China. It's sprayed with methyl bromide just to make sure there's no nasty bugs. It can be bleached if it comes from China, so really the bottom line is you probably don't want steak and methyl bromide for dinner, so, I'd go without or eat the Australian product.
Yeah. And just in terms of, obviously, you know, being a farm product and the vagaries of the season, what's this season been like for you compared to, say, last season? And what does that mean in terms of yields and flavours with the types of garlic that you've produced?
Look, the flavours probably don't change much, but there's no doubt we had a very difficult winter. In Orange this year we had over 60 mils of rain in about 3 months, freezing cold soil temperatures, and although we don't get as cold in the day as Gilles, we had a run of about 6-degree days and absolutely no sun. So nobody was very happy. The plants weren't happy and the people weren't happy. It was a terrible winter. So that's reduced the size of the garlic considerably. But that's the other good thing about farmers markets, that you can come and explain to people and say, I'm sorry this isn't as beautiful as usual, but we don't have any control over the season.
Yeah. And I suppose giving them alternate ways to use it when the flavours change or the yields, you know, sparingly.
Wow. Yes, I suppose ideally we should be doing that.
Okay, well, one last question. What's your favourite way of cooking and eating garlic?
Actually, I'm a bit hooked on spaghetti with breadcrumbs at the moment.
Okay.
So just fry the breadcrumbs, nice breadcrumbs, sourdough breadcrumbs, in some oil and a bit of chilli and lots of garlic.
And do you put crushed garlic in that, or do you throw whole cloves into the oil to begin with? Which way do you get the flavour out?
Actually, I chop it.
I'm
chopping mostly, not crushing.
And what's the difference between chopping and crushing?
Well, you read conflicting things.
Okay.
But I think, for example, Elizabeth David in her book says never crush garlic.
Yeah, right.
I remember that. But I would.
Well, I think she was talking about a garlic crusher.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about chopping it or pounding it in a mortar and pestle.
Ah, okay. Well, yes, that would be different. You're quite right.
Yeah. No, don't use a garlic crusher. No. But mortar and pestles are great for pounding and infusing. And I suppose one of the...
Why not?
Well, I think, you can, but I think that you get a smoother flavour and you don't necessarily lose some of the moisture out of it. I just prefer it texturally. And I think that when I crush it in one of those garlic crushers, quite a bit of the garlic sometimes gets left behind. Whereas if you do it in a mortar and pestle, nothing gets wasted. You know, it doesn't become sinewy. It breaks it down more holistically. And I suppose just on that note, one of the key things, obviously, when cooking garlic is to not let it burn.
Oh, yes, it's a horrible.
Yeah, and if you do, then it really is worth throwing it all out and starting again. And I think one of the I've cooked quite a lot of Thai food, and we used to fry chopped garlic and also fry very finely sliced garlic. And you had to fry it until it was sort of caramel brown, but that getting that caramel brown was always quite challenging. But you eventually learn when it's about to go caramel brown, and that's when you strain it off and spread it out on your paper towel, and you stand there literally watching it keep cooking. It's like meat. When you take it out of the oven, it just keeps cooking. So it's about sort of doing it often enough, throwing a few out, getting it right, and then you've got delicious caramelised garlic.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Libby.
Thank you for having me.
Mine of information. And next up...